The bandages on my side were a dull, constant ache, a reminder of the piece of me I'd given to save my son's life. I was shuffling to the kitchen for a glass of water when I saw the envelope on the counter. It was from a maritime registry, addressed to my son, Leo. Thinking it was a bill, I opened it. Inside wasn't a bill. It was a receipt of sale for a 45-foot sailing yacht named the Second Chance. The sale price was $250,000. The date of sale was 3 days after my kidney transplant. Before we go any further, subscribe to our channel. This story descends into a darkness you cannot imagine. My legs gave out. I slid to the cold tile floor, the paper trembling in my hand. The Second Chance. He'd named his yacht after the chance I gave him. The math was sickeningly simple. My kidney, sold on the black market, was worth about $250,000. He hadn't been on the transplant list. The renal failure, the desperate late-night calls, the tears. It was all a performance. A long, cruel, meticulously planned performance to get my organ. I thought of the recovery room, him holding my hand, his face pale with what I thought was shared suffering. "I'll never be able to repay you, Mom." He was right. He never intended to. I dragged myself to my feet, a cold, hard clarity cutting through the post-surgical fog. The ache in my side was no longer just physical pain. It was the epicenter of a seismic betrayal. I went to his home office. The door was locked. It had never been locked before. I used a letter opener to jimmy the simple bolt. His computer was on. He was arrogant, careless. He hadn't bothered to log out. His email was open. I searched broker, organ, payment. I found them. Emails with a man named the Curator. They discussed tissue typing, blood cross matches, and logistical planning. The final email, sent the day before my surgery, read, "Asset is confirmed. Payment of $250,000 will be transferred upon successful harvest and verification. Pleasure doing business. Harvest." He didn't have a transplant. He arranged a harvest. I heard his car in the driveway. I quickly forwarded the entire email chain to myself, deleted the sent record, and closed the laptop. I was back on the sofa, a blanket over my legs when he walked in. He was tanned, vibrant, glowing with health. My health. "Hey, Mom, how you feeling?" He kissed my forehead. His lips felt like a brand of betrayal. "A little tired, sweetheart," I whispered, forcing a weak smile. "I'm going out on the boat for a few days," he said, his voice bubbling with an excitement he couldn't contain. "The Second Chance. Good name, right? A friend's letting me use it. A friend. A $250,000 friend." He left, whistling. I waited until his car was gone. Then I stood up. The pain was still there, but it was fuel now. My son saw my kidney as an asset to be liquidated. He saw my love as a weakness to be exploited. He was wrong. My only mistake was loving my son unconditionally. His was thinking that love made me blind. It didn't. It made me see everything with a terrifying, crystalline clarity. He had taken my kidney and sold it for a yacht. Now, I was going to take everything else. And I was going to sink his precious second chance with him on it. The forwarded emails glowed on my screen, a digital testament to my son's monstrosity. The Curator, asset, harvest. The words were clinical, soulless. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had commodified me. The $250,000 wire transfer, dated the day after my surgery, was the price of my flesh. I printed everything. The emails, the wire transfer confirmation from his bank app I found still logged in on his tablet, the yacht receipt. I created a new file on my computer. I named it The Ledger. The physical pain was a constant grinding reminder. Every twinge, every pull of the suture was a whisper. He did this to you for a boat. I used it. The pain fueled a cold, focused rage that burned away the last remnants of maternal sentiment. The man who did this was not my son. He was a target. I needed to understand the scope. How does one even sell a kidney? My research led me into the dark underbelly of medical tourism and organ trafficking. It was a world of private jets, offshore clinics, and desperate billionaires. My kidney was probably in someone in Dubai or Singapore right now, bought by a man who saw no moral quandary in purchasing life from a thief. I hired a private investigator. His name was Silas, a grim-faced man who asked no questions when I laid out the facts. "I want to know everything about the yacht," I told him. "Its location, its registration, its operating cost. I want to know about the Curator. I want a name." While Silas dug, I worked on the financial front. Leo had gotten sloppy, flush with his new wealth. I still had access to our shared safety deposit box. a detail he'd forgotten in his avarice. Inside, I found what I needed. The originals of his life insurance policies, his property deed, and crucially, a spare key to his house. I waited for his next sailing trip, the moment he posted a sunset picture from the deck of the Second Chance. I went to his house. The key turned smoothly. His office was a shrine to his new wealth. Nautical charts, invoices for custom teak decking, a receipt for a $10,000 ship's wheel. I photographed it all, adding it to the ledger. Then I found his journal. It was tucked in his desk drawer, disguised as an old ledger book, and in it, he had written it all down. The plan, the initial contact from the curator, his mother's compatible biology, his cold-blooded calculations. The emotional appeal will be the most effective strategy. Play on her guilt, her desire to be a good mother. The final entry, written the night before the surgery. Tomorrow, I become a free man. The asset is ready for harvest. I closed the book, my hand steady. This was more than evidence. This was a confession. Silas called a week later. I found the curator. His name is Dr. Aris Thorne. He runs a private biomedical firm as a front. He's a ghost, but he has a daughter. She lives in the city. She's a lawyer. A lawyer. The irony was perfect. I now had two targets. My son, the monster I raised, and the monster who facilitated it. Leo returned, smelling of salt air and expensive whiskey. He pretended to fuss over my recovery, his concern a nauseating pantomime. You're looking stronger, Mom. I am, I said, meeting his eyes. I feel a new sense of purpose. He missed the threat in my words, too absorbed in his own glorious deception. That night I drafted 2 emails. The first was to the Coast Guard, detailing the illegal modifications and safety violations I documented on the Second Chance, anonymously reporting it as a hazard to navigation. The second was to Dr. Aris Thorne, sent from a secure anonymous server. It contained a single chilling sentence. I know what you took, and I know about your daughter, the lawyer. I attached a single page from the ledger, the email where he confirmed the payment for the successful harvest. The trap was set. I had thrown a rock into the pond, and now I would watch the ripples destroy both their worlds. My son sold my kidney for a yacht. He thought it was the ultimate transaction. He was about to learn the true cost of doing business with his own mother. The price was going to be everything he owned, and then some. The response from Dr. Thorne was immediate and panicked. It came to the anonymous email account. A single line. Who is this? What do you want? I didn't reply. Let him sweat. Let the uncertainty fester. A man who operated in shadows would now be terrified of them. The Coast Guard, however, was slower. It took 3 days for them to act. I was watching the marine traffic website when I saw it. The status for the Second Chance changed from underway to detained. A small, satisfied smile touched my lips. I pictured Leo's confusion, then his panic, as officials boarded his precious yacht. He called me an hour later, his voice tight with controlled fury. Mom, you are not going to believe this. Some bureaucratic nonsense with the Coast Guard. They're impounding the boat over some paperwork. It's a shakedown. Paperwork? I asked, my voice laced with fake concern. That seems serious, Leo. I hope it's nothing structural. There was a pause on the other end. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. What do you mean? Nothing, sweetheart. Just thinking out loud. I read an article about unregistered vessel modifications. It can be a real safety issue. I let the words hang. You should get it sorted out. A boat like that is a big responsibility. He hung up shortly after, his paranoia now a living thing. I had planted the seed. Let him wonder how his mother knew about marine regulations. The next move was financial. I filed a police report for the theft of personal property. The property in question, 1 human kidney, valued at $250,000. I walked into the station, leaning on my cane for effect, and presented the officer with a copy of the yacht receipt and a notarized letter from my surgeon confirming the date of my nephrectomy. The officer, a young man with a tired face, stared at the documents. Ma'am, you're reporting your kidney as stolen? Yes, officer, I said, my voice frail but firm. By my son. He tricked me into donating it under false pretenses and sold it. The receipt for what he bought with it is right there. It was an unprecedented claim. They couldn't officially file it as theft, but they took the report. The incident was now in the system. A paper trail was growing. Leo's reaction was volcanic. He stormed into my house, his face purple with rage. "What the hell did you do?" "The police called me, asking about a stolen organ." "Are you insane?" "I'm perfectly sane," I said, not rising from my chair. "I'm just balancing the ledger. You took something of mine without my consent and sold it. That's theft. I'm merely reporting a crime. You have no proof," he shouted. I reached slowly for the folder on the table beside me. I opened it and slid out his journal, opened to the page that read, "The asset is ready for harvest." His eyes locked on the page. The blood drained from his face, leaving a sickly gray pallor. He looked from the journal to my face, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of getting caught, but fear of me. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "This is my house," I said calmly. "You left your things here. Now get out." He backed away, a broken man glimpsing the abyss he had created. He knew I had the evidence. He knew the story could be told, but I wasn't ready to tell it to the world. Not yet. I needed him to feel the full, crushing weight of his isolation first. I sent a carefully curated packet to Dr. Thorne. It contained the police report number, a photo of Leo's journal entry, and a screenshot of the marine traffic website showing his detained yacht. The message was clear. Your accomplice is crumbling, and you're next. The squall I had created was now raging around both of them. Leo was fighting the Coast Guard and the whisper of a police investigation. Thorne was staring down a blackmailer who knew his deepest secret. They were both trapped, and I was the one controlling the weather. My son had sold a part of my body. Now I was systematically dismantling his entire life. The surgery had left me with a scar. The revenge was leaving him with nothing. Leo didn't come home for 3 days. The marina manager, a man named Pete, who I'd befriended with a story about a concerned mother and a reckless son, confirmed the second chance was still impounded. Leo was reportedly staying in a cheap motel near the docks, trying to bribe or lawyer his way out of the mess. It wasn't working. The Coast Guard doesn't take kindly to unapproved structural modifications that compromise hull integrity. Doctor, however, broke. A new email arrived. $100,000 in cash. "You get the money, you disappear," I replied for the first time. "The price is not money. The price is your practice. Dissolve your company. Publicly. Or your daughter learns what her father does for a living." I included her work address and a photo of her leaving her office building, taken by Silas. It was a brutal, ugly move. But they had played an ugly game. I was just using their rules. There was no response for 48 hours. Then, a news alert popped up on my phone. Prominent biomedical firm, Health, announces sudden dissolution. The article quoted the reclusive Dr. Thorne, citing unforeseen personal circumstances. I allowed myself a single cold sip of victory. One monster was down, now for the other. I knew where Leo kept his important documents. The same safety deposit box I had a key for. While he was fuming at the marina, I went to the bank. Inside, next to the yacht's title, I found his passport and a stack of cash. $15,000. His emergency escape fund. I took the passport and the title. I left the cash. Let him have his illusion of a way out. With the title in my possession, I called the marina. "This is Helen Pierce," I said, my voice assuming a tone of weary authority. "I'm Leo Pierce's mother, and the lien holder on the second chance. Given the mounting fines, I am formally authorizing you to seize the vessel and begin the process of selling it to recoup your losses." Pete, the manager, was all too happy to comply. The boat was a headache for him. The final piece was social. I composed a single devastating email. I attached the photo of the yacht receipt, the journal page with the word harvest, and the police report number. I did not write a long, emotional explanation. I simply wrote, "This is what your friend/brother, nephew did to me." I sent it to everyone. His friends, his colleagues, my family, his father's side of the family. Then I waited. The fallout was swift and absolute. My phone started ringing first, my sister sobbing. His former boss, speechless. Then I saw the social media posts. The whispers became a roar. Monster. Psychopath. How could he? Leo showed up at my door that night. He wasn't angry anymore. He was shattered. He looked like a man who had been flayed alive. The social annihilation was complete. Mom. He begged, tears streaming down his face. Please, you've ruined me. You have to tell them it's a misunderstanding. I stood in the doorway, the chain lock on. There is no misunderstanding, Leo. You faked a illness. You manipulated me into a major surgery. You sold my organ for a luxury item. Those are the facts. They'll put me in jail, he cried. Perhaps they should, I said, my voice flat. You stole a part of my body. What's the sentence for that? I closed the door. I heard him collapse on the porch, his sobs echoing in the quiet night. I felt nothing. The well of maternal feeling had been pumped dry, and at the bottom was only cold, hard stone. The next morning, he was gone. The motel said he'd checked out. Pete said he'd come for his things. A broken shell of a man, and left without saying a word. The bank confirmed he'd emptied his accounts. My son was now a fugitive from the life he had destroyed. He had his cash, but no passport, no friends, no reputation, and no yacht. He had nothing. I had one. I had scuttled his life as thoroughly as if I'd opened the Seacocks on the second chance myself. The ledger was balanced. The asset had been repossessed with extreme prejudice. He had taken my kidney. I had taken everything else. A year passed. The scar on my side faded to a thin, white line, a permanent receipt for a transaction I never agreed to. The house was silent, but it was my silence. I'd sold it, along with everything inside that held his memory. I moved to a small cottage by a windswept lake, a place with no history, no ghosts. The money from the house, combined with the small, grim satisfaction of knowing Leo's yacht had been auctioned off for scrap value, gave me a quiet freedom. I painted. I learned to sail a small, simple dinghy. I found a peace that was not the absence of pain, but a profound acceptance of it. There was no news of Leo. He was a ghost. I didn't know if he was dead or alive, and I found, to my own cold surprise, that I didn't care. The son I loved had died on the operating table the day he sold me out. One afternoon, a thick manila envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a single handwritten letter and a stack of $100 bills, $15,000. His escape fund. The letter was from Leo. Mom, I'm in a city where no one knows my name. I work a cash job loading trucks. I sleep in a room with 3 other men. I have nothing. You were right. About everything. I was a monster. I looked at you and I didn't see my mother. I saw an asset. A means to an end. I thought I was so smart. I'm not writing for forgiveness. I know that's impossible. I'm writing to say that you win. Completely. You took everything. And you were right to. Every day the weight of what I did is the anchor that holds me to this miserable existence. It's my punishment. And it is a far, far worse one than any prison. I'm sending you the money. It's all I have left. It was never mine anyway. It was always the price of your kidney. Consider it returned. Goodbye. Leo, I read the letter once. Then I walked down to the lake, the crisp bills in my hand. I stood on the dock, the wind pulling at my hair. I thought about the life he had chosen, a life of grinding anonymity, chained to the memory of his own evil. A living ghost. It was a better revenge than I could have ever designed. He had imprisoned himself. I didn't keep the money. I couldn't. It was tainted. A physical piece of the betrayal. I donated it, every last bill, to an organization that fought against organ trafficking. Let his blood money do some good in a world he had helped make darker. I watched the sun set over the water, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The dinghy bobbed gently at the end of its mooring. I was free, truly free. My son sold my kidney to buy a yacht and a fantasy life. He got a few weeks of salt spray and sunshine before the storm I summoned wrecked him. I got something else. I got the profound, unshakable knowledge that I was stronger than the worst betrayal imaginable. He took a piece of my body, but he couldn't break my will. He thought the yacht was his freedom. He was wrong. My freedom was right here, in the quiet, in the peace, in the absolute, unassailable knowledge that I had faced a monster, and I had won. The anchor of his guilt would hold him down forever. Mine had been cut loose. I was finally completely free.